belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome to GB News Live with me, Ellie Costello.
And me, Paul Hawkins. Coming up this hour, we will speak to GB News presenter Neil Oliver on his hopes for 2022 and the reintroduction of COVID curbs in Scotland.
And the best of Dan Wootton's big questions. But first, here's the latest news and headlines with Ray Addison.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm Ray Addison and this is your news at just after 9 a.m. Medical experts, politicians and sports personalities are among more than 1,200 people who have been recognised in the Queen's New Year's Honours List. Knighthoods have been given to the UK's Chief Medical Advisor, Professor Chris Whitty, and his deputy, Jonathan Van Tam, as well as the Chief Medical Officers for Scotland and Wales for their efforts in the fight against COVID. Meanwhile, Sir Patrick Vallance has been elevated to Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath. After a successful sporting year, tennis player Emma Raducanu and diver Tom Daley both receive MBEs. And James Bond actor Daniel Craig has been given a special diplomatic honour, becoming a companion of the Order of St Michael and St George. Separately from the main New Year's honours list, Buckingham Palace has announced Tony Blair and the Duchess of Cornwall will also receive awards from Her Majesty the Queen. The former Prime Minister has been made a Knight Companion of the Most Noble Order of the Garter. Joining him is Lady Amos, who served in his cabinet, while Camilla has been recognised for her contribution to the monarchy, appointed Royal Lady of the Most Noble Order of the Garter. People gathered to hear London's Big Ben ring in the new year for the first time since 2017 last night, as much of the UK welcomed 2022 with subdued celebrations. Thousands usually watch the show, but the ongoing spread of Omicron meant many stayed away, and the traditional London fireworks display was cancelled. It was an even quieter affair in Scotland, where large events were called off. Many stayed home in Wales and likewise in Northern Ireland, which recorded its highest number of daily coronavirus cases on New Year's Eve. COVID measures must be an absolute last resort in 2022, Sajid Javid has warned. Writing in the Daily Mail, the Health Secretary says the UK must learn to live alongside the virus and avoid strict measures in the future. Now, this comes as a further 189,846 COVID-19 cases were confirmed on Friday, another new daily record. Hospitality bosses are urging people not to abandon pubs during dry January. A poll by Alcohol Change UK shows 1 in 7 adults are planning to abstain from drinking for the whole month. However, business leaders say many venues are already struggling with debts caused by COVID restrictions and a 60% drop in footfall in December. Now, they're urging customers to support venues by ordering food and non-alcoholic drinks, even if they are going dry. Michael Kill, CEO of Nighttime Industries, spoke to GB News and is optimistic for 2022.
It's an extremely sort of reflective, sad time, but we need to move strongly into 2022 and push, as many of those leaders have suggested, support your local, support your hospitality businesses, your gig venues, all of those really, because there's a huge swathe of people behind it that people don't realise that put so much work in terms of supply chain that are vitally important to us being able to do what we do.
Michelle Obama, Pink and Oprah Winfrey have joined the long list of celebrities paying tribute to legendary actress Betty White following her death aged 99. The award-winning actress, best known for starring as Rose in the 1980s sitcom The Golden Girls, died just over 2 weeks shy of her 100th birthday. Former First Lady Michelle Obama says the TV legend has broken barriers with her joy, and her joy would be missed by people all around the world. OK, that's your news update. I'll be back at the top of the hour with the latest headlines. Now let's return to the show.
Thank you, Ray. It is 9:04. You're watching GB News Live. Well, many people at home will be hoping that the new year will bring many changes.
Will 2022 eventually be the year that we leave COVID behind and begin a full recovery?
Well, to share his thoughts on what 2022 might bring, we're joined now by GB News host Neil Oliver. Neil, Happy New Year. A very good morning to you. Thanks for speaking to us. Really appreciate it. You spoke in your Christmas message about signs of hope. So what signs of hope do you have for 2022?
Oh, well, Happy New Year to both of you. It's good to be with you. It was nice to be mindful last night that I was due to be on television at 9 a.m. So it made me take more care of myself than I might otherwise have done. So it's good to be with you both. I think we have to be hopeful. It's a choice that we can make. You can either be hopeful or not in the face of challenging times. And I sometimes think that when things seem bleakest, that can be, or darkest, that can be the very moment when it's important to deliberately. It's like putting a smile on your face when you don't feel particularly cheerful. Eventually, just the action of smiling lifts your spirits. And I think you have to be hopeful. And I think my primary hope, is that people are in increasing numbers realising the power and the influence that they actually have. It's easy to think in a global population of whatever, nearly 8 billion people, that an individual's thoughts and actions don't matter, that we're like drops in the ocean. But on the contrary, I think every action by each one of us is important and can make the difference. And I think that the process of the last, whatever it is, nearly 2 years, I think has awoken many people to the idea that you don't have to wait for a general election or to exercise your opinion via the ballot box. The act of standing up and speaking truthfully and honestly when you think that something is wrong and needs to be corrected, I think more and more people have accepted that and awoken to that, and it's that more than anything else that gives me hope for 2022.
Neil, Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I was actually working here on Christmas Day and we played your Christmas message a lot, and it did so well in the inbox, just people getting in touch to say that they really resonated with what you were saying about 2021 being really hard for lots of families. I mean, you touched upon it, being separated from families. Lots of people had a really tough year. And there was a sense from you that you weren't going to allow that to happen again. You wanted to be with your family because I think you said that's where you felt that's where you belonged. Is that something that you're definitely looking forward to in 2022?
Oh, 100%. I haven't so far allowed anything in terms of government diktat to separate me from anyone that I wanted to be with, I'm quite happy to declare that. I've always been of the opinion that it was right and proper that I be with the people that needed me and I needed, and I'll continue to do that. And I think I have thought from the beginning that the isolation of people, especially the way in which elderly people in care homes were isolated from the connections to family that were like a blood supply to them. That isolation, I think, was bordering on the criminal. It was so cruel, and that so many people found themselves cut off from and isolated from loved ones for all manner of reasons, and that people went through, say, events, festival like Christmas Day alone, because they, in inverted commas, weren't allowed to be with loved ones, appalled me, way beyond any other consideration. I just thought and think that doing that to people is immoral, and much bigger brains than mine have said that there are times when where there are bad laws, it's our moral obligation to disobey them and to disregard them. And I would live and die by that thought. But I don't want, today of all days, I as I said in that message at Christmas, I don't want to just look back and just to wallow in the all of the unhappiness that there has been. I think this process sparked by COVID, I'm hopeful that it will bring about a fundamental change to society. I think we're way overdue, for a change. I'm not talking here about some revolution. It's really just about all of us thinking differently and having a different perception of how we fit into the bigger picture. I had as a guest on one of my very recent shows Robert Malone, the American doctor who holds 9 of the patents for the mRNA technology, and I had him on and we spoke that he was cancelled, put away from Twitter, dropped by Twitter within days of Tony Blair being knighted. I think those two facts for me, those two events coming within days of one another, just further underline to me that something, to me, is badly out of kilter, badly out of step with our establishment and with those who rule over us, be it government, big media, big tech, big pharma. I think there's something badly adrift there when a voice like Robert Malone's is deliberately silenced by one of the big platforms at the same time as a figure, as divisive as Tony Blair is knighted. Here we are, the first day of a new year, and you might say that from the establishment's point of view, it seems that nothing has changed and it's business as usual. Well, I just don't accept that. And I think that, and I'm excited and inspired by the fact that I know of, and I'm in contact with so many people who have awoken to the idea that a change must come, and that we must demand better, we must demand more honesty, freedom of speech, freedom of expression from those above us, and I genuinely feel fired up and inspired by that.
Do you think that sense of empowerment, though, comes from? And do you think that it sometimes perhaps people feel too empowered and perhaps go too far? We saw some anti-vax protesters storming, I think it was a vaccination centre or a testing centre in Milton Keynes this week. Do you think some people take it too far, that sense of empowerment, which is important?
Yeah, I never advocate violence, and there are all kinds of violence, and there's all kinds of cruelty. And we're seeing it in the way that some protests are being allowed and encouraged, and other protests are being discouraged and chased off of the streets. But I deplore violence. I've never been involved in anything physically violent in my life, and I never intend to be. The blanket description of people as anti-vaxxers, I just don't accept. There are so many people, vaccinated people amongst them, who still acknowledge that something is wrong with the way in which voices are being silenced. People are feeling increasingly coerced. Around the world, that people are being induced, encouraged to take vaccination by anything up to and including getting, that brothel in Austria that was offering 30 minutes with the woman of your choice to men who would accept the vaccine, putting therefore women on a par with the burgers and the kebabs and the lottery tickets that were also being offered as inducements to take that. Now, people standing up on their hind legs, vaccinated or not, and saying that there are many, many parts of what is going on at the moment that are unforgivably wrong, to just blanket all of those people as, inverted commas, anti-vaxxers, I think is wrong. The people are opposed to a whole broad spectrum of measures that have been taken to drive a narrative. There's been government-sponsored propaganda. Hundreds of millions of pounds have been spent on the media to have the media, push a narrative as though it's absolute fact and the only narrative to be believed, when it isn't. It's just one side of an argument. All manner of efforts have been made to silence the debate, the other sides of that argument, and all of that is unspeakably and unforgivably wrong. But
Neil, we've
yeah,
only got
in answer to your
left.
question, I never would take part in, and I don't encourage anything violent. No, absolutely
No,
not.
and I totally see where you're coming from, because I know plenty of people who haven't had the jab and who do feel coerced continually, and perhaps it's time to just stop that conversation and just accept that some people aren't going to have it and respect that right. But we really appreciate
Yes, I think
your time.
so. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
Yeah,
to you
happy
as
New Year
well,
to you
Neil.
too.
We could talk to you all morning.
Indeed, GB News legend Neil Oliver there. That's almost it from us, isn't it?
Almost it from us, yes. I'm just going to bring you a couple of emails that have come in on Tony Blair getting his knighthood. This is in support of that, actually. The years of public service and achievements certainly require recognition. That's from Jonathan on Twitter. Thanks very much for getting in touch, Jonathan.
Yeah, lots of you getting in touch with us this morning on Sir Tony Blair, as he will be known now, personally nominated by the Queen. Jeff here says Her Majesty seems to have forgotten the events of March 2003 when tens of thousands of innocent children, men and women, were murdered during the Iraq War. And he calls the nomination totally unacceptable. But that is it from Ellie and myself. Thank you for your company and Happy New Year to you. Coming up next, it's the best of Dan Wootton's big questions. Before that, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going